Something shifted in you, didn't it? Maybe it happened 5 minutes ago, or maybe it's been building for weeks like pressure behind your eyes. You tried the affirmations, you visualized, you wrote the lists and burned the candles and said the prayers. And some days it worked, some days you felt the magic, but then it faded like morning fog, and you were back where you started, wondering if any of this is even real. But today, right now, in this moment, something is different. You're not here by accident. Your subconscious mind, that vast infinite intelligence within you, has brought you to this threshold, and I'm here to tell you what I've spent my entire life discovering. You are about to understand something so profound, so utterly transformative, that the old ways of trying and hoping and wishing will never work for you again. And that's not a loss, that's a graduation. Let me be clear with you from the beginning. I'm not here to sell you another technique. I'm not here to give you 7 steps or 3 secrets or any kind of formula that turns your mind into a vending machine where you insert the right prayer and out pops a new car. What I'm about to share with you is something far more radical, far more unsettling, and infinitely more powerful. I'm going to show you that your subconscious mind has already been working perfectly your entire life. Not broken, not blocked, not resistant, perfectly. It has been faithfully, flawlessly creating every single circumstance you currently live in, and it did so because you gave it the instructions. Not with your words, not with your wishes. With your actual beliefs, the ones you didn't even know you had, buried so deep you think they're just reality. Stay with me, because once you see this, once you really see it, you can never unsee it. And that's when everything changes. That's when your mind crosses the threshold, and nothing works the same way again. You stop begging the universe. You stop performing rituals hoping someone out there is listening. You step into your true power as the operant power in your own life, the only creative force that matters. This isn't philosophy, this is the law, and the law doesn't care if you believe in it. Gravity worked before Newton named it. Your subconscious has been creating your world since before you learned the word manifestation. So, take a breath. We're going deep today. Deeper than you've gone before, and I promise you, if you stay with me until the end, you will not be the same person who clicked on this video. Something in you is ready, let's begin. You know what I've noticed after decades of studying the mind, after counseling thousands of people, after watching miracles unfold and witnessing the most stubborn circumstances dissolve like sugar in hot water? The biggest obstacle isn't that people don't know enough. It's that they know too much of the wrong things. They've collected techniques like trading cards. They've memorized affirmations in 6 different languages. They've got vision boards and journals and crystals and courses, and still, the life they want feels like it's happening to someone else, somewhere else, in some other dimension where the magic actually works. I used to meet people who would tell me, "Dr. Murphy, I've been affirming for 6 months and nothing has changed." And I would ask them, very gently, "What are you affirming?" And they would tell me these beautiful words, wonderful words. I am wealthy, I am loved, I am healthy, perfect words. And then I would ask them, and what do you feel when you say these words? And this is where the truth would come out. This is where the mask would slip. They would say, well, I feel like I'm lying, I feel desperate. I feel like I'm trying to convince myself of something that isn't true. And right there, right in that moment, I could show them exactly why nothing had changed. Because the subconscious mind doesn't respond to words. It responds to feeling. It responds to conviction. It responds to the actual belief, the real belief, not the wished-for belief. Your subconscious is like the most faithful servant who ever lived. It never questions you. It never doubts you. It never says, "Are you sure about that?" Whatever you genuinely accept as true, it will move heaven and earth to make real in your experience. But here's the part that most people miss. The part that changes everything. Your subconscious doesn't care about your conscious wishes. It doesn't care what you say you want. It only cares about what you actually believe. And what you actually believe is revealed not by your words, but by your persistent thoughts, your dominant emotions, your habitual mental states, and most importantly, by what you accept as true when no one is watching, when you're alone with yourself in the dark. This is the threshold you're crossing. This is the shift that changes everything. You're moving from trying to manipulate reality with words and actions to actually transforming your beliefs at the root. You're moving from the shallow waters of positive thinking into the deep ocean of true mental transformation. And I'm not going to lie to you, this requires something from you. It requires honesty. Brutal, uncomfortable, ego-shattering honesty. Because you're going to have to look at your current life, all of it, the good and the bad and the frustrating and the painful, and accept that it's all there because some part of you believed it into existence. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Joseph, are you telling me I wanted these problems? I wanted this struggle? I wanted this pain? No. Listen carefully. I'm not saying you consciously wanted these things. I'm saying you subconsciously accepted them. There's a massive difference. Somewhere along the way, through repetition, through authority figures, through trauma or disappointment or just the sheer weight of experience, you formed beliefs. Beliefs about what's possible for you. Beliefs about what you deserve. Beliefs about how the world works. Beliefs about money, about love, about health, about success. And these beliefs, these silent, invisible programs running in the background of your mind, have been creating your reality with absolute precision. I remember a woman who came to me many years ago. She was brilliant, educated, capable in every way, but she couldn't keep a job. She would get hired, things would go well for a few months, and then inevitably, something would happen. The company would restructure, her boss would turn against her. She would make some small mistake that got blown out of proportion. It was always something different on the surface, but the pattern was always the same. And she came to me in tears saying, "Why does God hate me? Why am I cursed?" And I said to her, "You're not cursed, but you are believing something that isn't true. Tell me about your father." And her face went pale. She said, "How did you know?" I said, "Because it's always something. Tell me." And she told me that her father had always told her, since she was a little girl, "You're smart, but you'll never make it in the real world. You're too sensitive. You'll never last." And she had heard this so many times, from such an authority figure, during such formative years, that it had become her truth. Not the truth. Her truth. A program in her subconscious. And that program was running perfectly, creating circumstances that proved it right, over and over again. So I asked her, "Do you want to change this?" And she said yes. And I said, "Then you have to stop fighting the circumstances and start changing the belief. The circumstances are just symptoms. The belief is the disease." And we worked together, and she learned how to access her subconscious mind, how to speak its language, how to impress upon it a new belief, a true belief, one that actually aligned with her divine nature as a creative being made in the image of infinite intelligence. And within 6 months, not only did she have a stable job, but she was promoted. And 2 years later, she started her own business. Not because the world changed, because her belief changed. And when her belief changed, her subconscious mind, that faithful, perfect servant, began creating circumstances to match the new belief, instead of the old one. This is not magic. This is law. This is how your mind works. This is how it has always worked. The problem is that most people spend their entire lives trying to change the circumstances while leaving the beliefs untouched. It's like trying to change the reflection in a mirror by painting the mirror. It doesn't work. You have to change what's in front of the mirror. You have to change what's being reflected. You have to change the belief. And here's where it gets really interesting. Here's where you start to see just how powerful you actually are. Your beliefs aren't set in stone. They feel like stone. They feel permanent and solid and unquestionable. But they're not. They're just thoughts that you kept thinking until they hardened into assumptions. And if thoughts can harden into beliefs, then new thoughts can dissolve old beliefs and create new ones. This is the most hopeful, most empowering thing I can tell you. You are not stuck with the beliefs you currently have, no matter how long you've had them, no matter who gave them to you, no matter how much evidence you've accumulated to support them. They can be changed. You can change them. Starting right now, in this moment, with this conversation. But it requires that you stop doing what doesn't work. And what doesn't work is trying to cover up a negative belief with a positive affirmation. What doesn't work is pretending you believe something you don't. What doesn't work is willpower and forcing and grinding and pushing. The subconscious doesn't respond to force. It responds to impression. It responds to feeling. It responds to the quiet, repeated, emotionally saturated acceptance of a new idea as true, not as possible, not as hopeful, as true, as already real, as done. Let me say that again because it's crucial. Your subconscious mind only accepts as true what you feel to be true, not what you think should be true, not what you hope might be true someday. What you feel, right now, in the depths of your being, to be true. This is why affirmations often fail, because people say the words without generating the feeling. They're trying to convince their subconscious of something while simultaneously feeling that it's not true. And the subconscious always sides with the feeling, always. Words are cheap. Feelings are the currency of the subconscious. So when I talk about crossing a threshold, when I say nothing will work the same way again, this is what I mean. You're done with surface techniques. You're done with pretending. You're ready to go into the depths, into the feeling, into the actual transformation of belief. And once you learn how to do this, once you experience even one real shift, one genuine change in belief that manifests as changed circumstances, you'll never go back. You won't need to. Because you'll have tasted real power. Not power over others. Not power to manipulate or control. But the only power that matters, power over your own consciousness. Power to choose what you accept as true. Power to impress your subconscious with beliefs that serve your highest good. Power to create your life from the inside out, which is the only way it's ever been created, whether you knew it or not. Are you starting to see it? Are you starting to feel that shift? That opening? That recognition that yes, this is different, this is real, this is what I've been looking for? Good. Stay with me. Because now we're going to go deeper. Now I'm going to show you exactly how this works, why you've struggled until now, and most importantly, how to step into this new way of being where your mind becomes your greatest ally instead of your biggest obstacle. This is where everything changes. This is the threshold. And you're already crossing it. I want to tell you a story that illustrates this principle so perfectly it still gives me chills decades later. There was a man I'll call Thomas. Thomas came to one of my lectures in Los Angeles. He was in his early 40s, well-dressed, articulate, and absolutely miserable. After the lecture, he waited until everyone else had left and approached me with tears in his eyes. He said, "Dr. Murphy, I have done everything. I've read every book. I've tried every technique. I pray every morning and every night. I visualize. I affirm. I've seen therapists and counselors and even a hypnotist. And I'm still broke. I'm still alone. I'm still failing. What am I doing wrong?" And I looked at this man, and I could see the desperation, the exhaustion, the feeling of being cosmically rejected. And I said, "Thomas, you're not doing anything wrong with your techniques. Your techniques are fine. The problem is that underneath every technique, underneath every prayer and affirmation, there's a belief running the show. And that belief is saying, none of this will work for me. I'm the exception. I'm the one person the universe forgot about. Am I right?" And he just stared at me. And then he nodded. And then he broke down completely because no one had ever said that to him before. No one had ever seen it. Because here's what happens when you live with this belief: you stop trying. Not all at once, not dramatically, but slowly, incrementally, you withdraw from the game of life. You stop applying for that job because they won't pick me anyway. You don't approach that person because I already know how it ends. You stay silent in the meeting, invisible at the party, absent from your own life. And then, and this is the cruelest part, when nothing happens, when opportunity doesn't knock, when love doesn't find you, you say, "See? I was right. The universe really did forget about me." You've created a self-fulfilling prophecy. But you've mistaken the symptom for the disease. Now let me tell you what's actually happening in your subconscious mind when you believe you're forgotten. Your subconscious doesn't question your beliefs, it executes them. It's like a master gardener that grows whatever seeds you plant. You plant, "I am forgotten." And your subconscious says, "Understood. Let me create situations that confirm this." It directs your attention to every overlooked moment while filtering out the 100 times you were noticed. It creates body language that says, "Don't see me," while you consciously wish someone would. It generates the very invisibility you fear. I want you to understand something profound right now. The universe hasn't forgotten you. That's impossible. You are not separate from the universe, you are the universe expressing itself in human form. Saying the universe forgot you is like saying your heart forgot to beat or your lungs forgot to breathe. You are woven into the very fabric of existence itself. Every atom in your body was forged in the heart of a dying star. The same intelligence that orchestrates the seasons, that tells the seed when to sprout and the bird when to migrate, is operating through you right now. But here's where it gets interesting. While the universe hasn't forgotten you, you may have forgotten the universe. You've forgotten your connection to infinite intelligence. You've forgotten that you're a broadcasting station, constantly sending out signals through your dominant thoughts and feelings. You've been broadcasting on the wrong frequency, and then wondering why you're not receiving the programs you desire. It's like tuning your radio to a station playing static and complaining that there's no music in the air. The music exists, the frequency is there, but you're not aligned with it. Let me share something that might shake you awake. Right now, in this very moment, there are radio waves passing through your body, television signals, Wi-Fi data, satellite transmissions, all of it moving through you at the speed of light. You can't see them, you can't feel them, but they're there, carrying information, images, sound, all invisibly surrounding you. Are they real? Absolutely. Can you access them without the right receiver? No. Your mind is that receiver. Your subconscious is the antenna. And the thoughts you choose to dwell upon determine which frequency you're locked onto. When you constantly think thoughts of lack, when you rehearse your limitations, when you replay your failures like a broken record, you're tuning into the frequency of poverty. And the universe, being an impersonal law, delivers more experiences that match that vibration. This is where most people get it catastrophically wrong. They think the universe is punishing them. They think God has favorites. They think some people are just lucky and others are cursed. None of this is true. The law of mind is no more personal than the law of gravity. Drop a feather and drop a stone. Gravity doesn't care which one you prefer. It acts on both equally according to its nature. The universe operates on the same principle. It doesn't judge your desires as good or bad, worthy or unworthy. It simply responds to the mental equivalent you're holding in consciousness. If you're holding poverty consciousness, you'll experience poverty regardless of how hard you work. If you're holding wealth consciousness, abundance will find you even when you're not actively seeking it. I've watched this play out thousands of times. Two people start with the same resources, the same opportunities, even the same education. 5 years later, one is thriving and the other is barely surviving. What's the difference? Not talent, not luck, not even effort. The difference is the mental atmosphere they've been living in. One has been breathing the air of possibility, the other has been suffocating in the smog of limitation. And here's what most people don't realize. You're choosing which air you're breathing right now. Every thought you entertain, every word you speak, every mental picture you hold, it's either purifying your atmosphere or poisoning it. You want to know why some people seem to attract one disaster after another? It's not bad luck, it's bad atmosphere. They've created a mental climate where only weeds can grow, and then they wonder why they never harvest roses. I once worked with a businessman who came to me completely broke. Third bankruptcy. He said, "Dr. Murphy, I must be cursed. Every business I start fails within a year." So I asked him to describe his typical morning, and listen carefully to what he told me. He'd wake up and immediately start worrying about money. He'd look at his bills and feel that familiar knot in his stomach. He'd tell his wife, "We're never going to get ahead." On his drive to work, he'd mentally rehearse conversations where clients rejected him. By the time he walked into his office, he was already defeated. I stopped him right there. "You're not cursed." I said, "You're committed. Committed to failure. You're giving it more attention, more emotional energy, more mental rehearsal than you've ever given to success." His face went pale, because he knew it was true. We started changing his mental atmosphere immediately. Every morning, before his feet hit the floor, he would spend 5 minutes feeling what it would be like to be financially free. Not thinking about it, feeling it, experiencing the relief, the confidence, the peace. Throughout the day, whenever worry knocked on his door, he had a new response ready. My subconscious mind is now attracting perfect opportunities to me. He said it until he believed it. He said it until it felt more real than his bank statement. Within 6 months, an opportunity came that he never could have predicted. Within a year, he had more money than he'd lost in all 3 bankruptcies combined. Magic? No. He simply changed the atmosphere. He stopped planting failure seeds and started planting success seeds. And the subconscious mind, like the soil, doesn't care what you plant, it just grows what you give it. Now, I want to share something with you that changed everything for one of my students. She came to me after years of financial struggle. Every month was the same story, bills piling up, creditors calling, barely making ends meet. She told me, "Dr. Murphy, I work hard. I'm a good person. Why am I being punished?" I looked at her and said, "Nobody is punishing you. You're punishing yourself with your own thoughts." She was shocked. "What do you mean? I don't want to be poor." "No," I said, "you don't consciously want to be poor. But let me ask you something. What do you say when you look at your bank account? What do you think when bills arrive? What words come out of your mouth when you talk about money?" She grew quiet. Then, slowly, she admitted, "I always say I can't afford it. I tell my friends I'm broke. I say money slips through my fingers. I joke that I'm allergic to wealth." There it was. She didn't want poverty, but she was speaking poverty. She was thinking poverty. And your subconscious mind doesn't understand jokes. It doesn't know the difference between what you want and what you're affirming. It only knows what you're impressing upon it, day after day, thought after thought, word after word. I gave her a new assignment. Every morning and every night, before sleep, she was to say, "I am a magnet for wealth. Money flows to me easily and naturally. I am prospered in all my ways." She looked skeptical. "That's it? Just say some words?" "Just say some words," I replied, with feeling, with acceptance, as if it's already true. 3 weeks later, she received an unexpected promotion. 2 months after that, a relative she barely knew left her a small inheritance. Within 6 months, her entire financial situation had transformed not through magic, not through luck, but through the systematic reprogramming of her subconscious mind. This is the power you hold. This is the kingdom within you. But you must use it consciously. You must use it deliberately. You cannot plant thorns and expect roses. You cannot think lack and experience abundance. You cannot dwell on sickness and manifest health. The law is impersonal. It does not judge your worthiness. It does not question your background. It simply responds to the nature of your habitual thinking. This is why 2 people can live in the same circumstances. One rises, the other remains stuck. The difference is not in their environment, the difference is in the mental atmosphere they create and maintain. Your subconscious mind accepts what you truly believe. Not what you say you believe on Sunday morning, not what you claim to believe when others are listening, but what you believe in the quiet moments. What you believe when you're alone with your thoughts. What you believe when circumstances press against you. If you say you want prosperity but constantly worry about bills, your subconscious accepts the worry, not the words. If you affirm health but spend your day discussing symptoms and diseases, your subconscious accepts the fear, not the affirmation. Your emotional conviction is what impresses the subconscious. Your feeling is the language it understands. This is why mere repetition of words accomplishes nothing. You can repeat "I am wealthy" 10,000 times, but if underneath those words you feel poor, if your stomach tightens with anxiety about money, if your dominant feeling is lack, then lack is what you impress upon your subconscious mind. The subconscious is like a garden's soil. It will grow whatever seed you plant with feeling and acceptance. Plant seeds of confidence, water them with faith, and you will harvest success. Plant seeds of doubt, water them with fear, and you will harvest failure. The soil doesn't care. It simply produces after its kind. Many people wonder why their prayers seem unanswered. They wonder why their affirmations fail. The answer is always the same. They are working against themselves. They affirm one thing consciously while believing another thing subconsciously. They pray for healing while emotionally accepting sickness. They ask for abundance while feeling unworthy of receiving it. Your subconscious accepts your dominant mental attitude, not your occasional hopeful thought. not your desperate pleading in moments of crisis, but the habitual dwelling place of your mind. What do you return to again and again? What thoughts do you entertain most frequently? This is what your subconscious accepts as true and proceeds to manifest in your experience. Your subconscious mind is like fertile soil. It doesn't judge the seeds you plant. It doesn't distinguish between wheat and weeds. It simply grows whatever you consistently deposit into it. And this is both the great danger and the magnificent opportunity of your mental life. Most people never realize they are gardeners of their own consciousness. They allow any stray thought, any passing worry, any casual fear to take root, and then they wonder why their life bears such bitter fruit. They wonder why anxiety multiplies, why lack persists, why relationships follow the same painful patterns year after year. But you are not most people. Or you wouldn't be here, seeking this understanding. You sense there is a law at work. You feel, perhaps dimly, that your thoughts are not merely idle vapor but actual creative forces. Let me tell you about a man I worked with years ago. He came to me depleted, exhausted, convinced he was destined for failure. For 20 years he had tried to build a successful business. For 20 years he had failed. Different ventures, same result. He worked harder than anyone I knew. His effort was never the problem. But every morning, he would look in the mirror and say, "Well, here we go again. Another day of struggle. Nothing ever works out for me." He said this not once but thousands of times. And his subconscious, faithful servant that it is, said yes. Yes, you are right. Nothing works out. Let me show you more evidence of this truth you've declared. I asked him a simple question. What if, for 90 days, you spoke to yourself differently? What if you treated yourself as you would a beloved child, with encouragement, with faith, with expectation of good? He resisted at first. It felt dishonest. How could he declare success when his bank account showed failure? But I explained that he wasn't lying. He was planting new seeds. He was choosing which thoughts to nourish with his attention and repetition. So, he began. Every morning, I am guided to right action. Prosperity flows to me naturally. My mind is filled with creative ideas. Success is my natural state. Within 3 months, everything shifted, not because the universe suddenly favored him, but because his subconscious, now impressed with new patterns, began to reveal opportunities his anxious mind had been blind to. It guided him to connections he would have missed. It gave him courage to speak up in a meeting that led to his breakthrough. This is the secret that eludes so many. They think manifestation is about forcing the universe's hand. It's not. It's about removing the blocks within your own consciousness so that what is already yours can flow to you naturally. Your subconscious is the connecting link between your desire and its fulfillment. When you impress it correctly, it sets in motion a chain of events that appears miraculous only because you cannot see the invisible network of causation at work beneath the surface. I want you to understand something fundamental about timing. People often ask me, how long will it take? They want guarantees, schedules, delivery dates. But creation doesn't work by your calendar. It works by the law of gestation. A seed planted in the ground doesn't sprout according to your impatience. It follows its own perfect timeline. You don't dig it up every day to check if it's growing. You trust the process. You water it. You give it sunlight. And in due time, it breaks through the soil. Your desires are the same. Once you've planted the seed in your subconscious through feeling and belief, you must leave it alone to do its work. This doesn't mean you become passive. It means you move forward with expectancy rather than anxiety. The man I mentioned continued his practice. Some nights the doubts crept back in. He's human, after all. But he learned to observe those doubts without feeding them. He would acknowledge them and then return to his vision, return to the feeling of his wish fulfilled. Within 3 months, he received an offer. Not from where he expected, but from a contact he'd made years ago who suddenly remembered him. The position was better than what he'd been chasing. The salary exceeded his visualization. Was this coincidence? Was it luck? No, it was law. The law of mind in action. And here's what most people miss about law. Law doesn't care about your circumstances. Gravity doesn't stop working because you're having a bad day. The law of mind doesn't pause because you've been disappointed before. When I began teaching these principles in the 1940 seconds, People would come to me with stories that would break your heart. Men who'd lost everything in the depression. Women trapped in situations that seemed hopeless. Young people who felt they'd been born into the wrong life entirely. And I would tell them all the same thing. Your past has no power except the power you give it through continued contemplation. Let me make this extremely clear. Every single time you replay an old hurt, you're not remembering it, you're recreating it. You're taking the creative power of your subconscious mind and directing it toward the very thing you don't want. It's like hiring a master builder and giving him blueprints of a prison, then wondering why you feel trapped. I knew a woman in Los Angeles who came to my lectures for months. She would sit in the front row, taking notes, nodding along, but nothing in her life changed. Finally, she approached me after a service and said, "Dr. Murphy, I've been affirming abundance for 6 months. Why am I still struggling?" I asked her a simple question. What do you think about during the day when you're not affirming? Her face fell. She knew. Between her morning affirmations and evening prayers, she spent her entire day rehearsing lack, checking her bank account with anxiety, calculating what she couldn't afford, telling friends about her financial troubles. Every conversation, every thought, every idle moment was spent impressing poverty upon her subconscious mind. You see, it's not about the 5 minutes you spend affirming, it's about the other 23 hours and 55 minutes. Your subconscious is always listening, always accepting, always creating. This is why I emphasize feeling over mere words. You can say, "I am wealthy" 1,000 times, but if you feel poor while saying it, you're simply lying to yourself. And your subconscious knows it. It responds to the feeling, not the word. So what do? You don't force yourself to feel something you don't feel. That's exhausting and counterproductive. Instead, you begin where you are. You acknowledge your current state without judgment, and then you gently shift your attention toward what you desire. You don't fight the old feeling. You simply starve it of attention while feeding the new one. Let me give you a practical example. Suppose you're struggling financially and you want to affirm abundance. Don't stand in front of a mirror and shout, "I am rich," while your heart is screaming, "This is nonsense, I can't even pay rent." That internal conflict will only deepen the groove of lack in your subconscious mind. Instead, begin with something your mind can accept. You might say, "Money is beginning to flow more easily to me," or "I am open to receiving abundance in unexpected ways." These statements don't contradict your current experience so violently that your subconscious rejects them. They create a bridge between where you are and where you want to be. And as you repeat these gentler affirmations, you support them with visualization. You see yourself checking your bank account and feeling relief. You imagine opening your mailbox and finding a check. You picture yourself shopping without anxiety, knowing there's enough. You don't visualize millions of dollars if that feels too far from your reality. You start with scenarios that generate genuine feeling, even if they're modest. Because it's the feeling that impresses the subconscious, not the magnitude of the image. Here's the secret that most people miss. Your subconscious mind doesn't distinguish between a vividly imagined experience and a real one. When you imagine something with emotional intensity, your subconscious accepts it as fact. It begins to reorganize your outer world to match this inner conviction. This is not fantasy. This is the mechanism by which all lasting change occurs. Think about this for a moment. Every night, you dream. And in those dreams, you experience emotions as real as any you feel during waking hours. You feel fear in a nightmare. You feel joy in a pleasant dream. Your body responds with actual physiological changes, sweating, increased heart rate, relaxation. Your subconscious cannot tell that the dream isn't happening in physical reality. This same principle applies to conscious visualization. When you deliberately create a mental scene and feel it as real, your subconscious begins to accept it as your reality. And because your subconscious controls so much of your behavior, your habits, your perceptions, your automatic responses, it begins to guide you toward the physical manifestation of what you've impressed upon it. This is why visualization isn't just wishful thinking or fantasy, it's a deliberate act of programming. You're not pretending, you're not escaping reality. You're instructing the most powerful creative mechanism you possess. You're speaking the language your subconscious understands best, the language of images and feeling. And here's something most people miss. The subconscious doesn't just accept any random image you throw at it. It responds most powerfully to images that are vivid, repeated, and emotionally charged. This is why casual daydreaming rarely produces results. There's no intensity, no conviction, no feeling behind it. But when you take time each day to enter a relaxed state, to quiet the conscious mind, and to vividly imagine your desire as already fulfilled, you're doing something entirely different. You're impressing your subconscious with authority, you're claiming your desire with faith. And your subconscious, which cannot argue or reason, accepts this impression and begins to work ceaselessly to bring it into your physical reality. Think of it this way. Your subconscious is like a garden. Whatever you plant in it will grow. If you plant seeds of lack, fear, and limitation, that's what will sprout in your life. But if you plant seeds of abundance, confidence, and success, those will grow instead. Visualization is how you plant deliberately. It's how you choose your harvest. Now, I want to address something important. Some people visualize once or twice and then wonder why nothing happens. They say visualization doesn't work. But this is like planting a seed, checking the next day, seeing no plant, and declaring that gardening is a fraud. Growth takes time. Roots must develop beneath the surface before anything appears above ground. The same is true with your subconscious impressions. When you first begin to visualize, you're creating new neural pathways. You're contradicting old beliefs. You're going against years of conditioning. This doesn't happen instantly. But if you persist, if you return to your vision daily with feeling and faith, you will begin to see changes. First in your thoughts, then in your attitudes, then in your actions, and finally, in your circumstances. That's why we say faith without works is dead. You can't affirm prosperity while clutching poverty consciousness. You can't speak of health while nursing the mental image of disease. You can't claim love while harboring resentment in your heart. The mental equivalent must be complete, total, undivided. Let me give you an example that made this crystal clear to a woman who came to me in Los Angeles years ago. She was affirming abundance daily, doing everything right, according to the books she'd read. Yet nothing changed. I asked her, "When you go to pay your bills, what do you feel?" "Anxiety," she admitted. "Fear that there won't be enough." "And when you see a wealthy person?" "I feel it's not fair. Why them and not me?" There it was. Her real mental equivalent wasn't abundance at all. It was lack, fear, and resentment. The words she spoke were meaningless compared to the feeling tone she was broadcasting continuously to her subconscious mind. So we changed the approach entirely. Instead of just affirming abundance, she began to feel genuinely grateful for every dollar she had. She blessed wealthy people, saying inwardly, "Good for you, and there's plenty for me too." When paying bills, she gave thanks that she had the money to pay them, that she had services worth paying for. Within 3 months, her income had doubled through opportunities she would have missed entirely in her previous state of consciousness. That's the power of establishing the right mental equivalent. Your subconscious doesn't care about your words. It responds to your conviction, your feeling, your dominant mental attitude. When these align with your desire, manifestation becomes inevitable. Now here's where most people stumble, and I want to address this directly because it's crucial. They confuse mental work with passivity. They think that because everything starts in mind, they should just sit around visualizing and waiting for miracles to drop from the sky. That's not how it works. Let me be crystal clear about what mental work actually means. When you impress something on your subconscious mind, that impression immediately sets forces into motion. Your subconscious doesn't wait for permission. It begins orchestrating circumstances, arranging encounters, directing your attention to opportunities you would have otherwise missed. But here's what most people fail to understand. It also directs your feet. You will feel compelled to take action. You will feel drawn to certain people, certain places, certain activities. This isn't coincidence. This is your subconscious guiding you toward the physical manifestation of what you've impressed upon it. The person who truly understands mental work recognizes these impulses and acts on them. I've seen this principle work in my own life countless times. I would impress a desire on my subconscious mind, and within days, sometimes hours, I would feel a strong urge to call a particular person, visit a specific location, or read a certain book. And every single time I followed that inner prompting, it led directly to the fulfillment of my desire. This is the partnership between conscious and subconscious mind. Your conscious mind selects the goal and impresses it on your subconscious. Your subconscious accepts it and begins working out the solution. But it communicates that solution to you through intuition, through hunches, through sudden urges to act, and you must honor those promptings. The person who says, "I'm doing mental work, so I don't need to do anything," has completely misunderstood the process. They're like someone who plants a garden and then refuses to walk outside to harvest the vegetables when they ripen. The mental work produces the crop, but you still have to gather it. Let me give you a practical example. A woman once came to me desperate for employment. She had been out of work for months. I taught her to impress upon her subconscious mind the idea of perfect, fulfilling employment with ideal compensation. She practiced this faithfully every night before sleep. 3 days later, she felt a strong urge to visit a friend she hadn't seen in over a year. That friend mentioned, quite casually during their conversation, that her company had just created a new position perfectly suited to my friend's skills and experience. Within a week, she was interviewed and hired at a salary exceeding her expectations. This is how the subconscious mind works when you give it clear direction. It orchestrates circumstances, creates what we call coincidences, and moves people and events to bring about the realization of your impressed desire. The subconscious doesn't debate or question. It simply accepts what you persistently impress upon it and begins working to make it manifest in your external world. This is why your habitual thinking is so critically important. Every thought you think repeatedly, every belief you hold consistently, every mental image you dwell upon regularly, these are all instructions to your subconscious mind. Many people unknowingly use this principle in reverse. They impress their subconscious with fear, lack, limitation, and unworthiness. Then they wonder why their lives reflect these negative conditions. They say, "I never have enough money," and their subconscious faithfully produces experiences of financial lack. They say, "I always get sick during winter," and their subconscious obligingly weakens their immune system when the season changes. You must become vigilant about the impressions you're making on your subconscious mind. Examine your habitual thoughts. What are you repeatedly saying to yourself about your health, your finances, your relationships, your future? These repetitive thoughts are creating your tomorrow, as surely as seeds planted today create next season's harvest. The beautiful truth is that you can change these impressions at any moment. You are not bound by your past programming. You are not a victim of your previous conditioning. Right now, in this present moment, you can begin to impress new ideas upon your subconscious mind. You can plant new seeds. You can choose different thoughts. This requires discipline, yes. It requires persistence. Your conscious mind must stand guard at the door of your subconscious, rejecting negative impressions and accepting only those thoughts and beliefs that align with what you truly desire to experience. But here is what most people get wrong about this guarding process. They think it means suppressing negative thoughts through force. They imagine themselves battling against their own mind, fighting an endless war against unwanted impressions. This is exhausting, and it doesn't work. Fighting your thoughts only gives them more power, more energy, more life. The true method is substitution. When a negative thought enters your awareness, you don't wrestle with it. You don't argue with it. You simply and gently replace it with its positive opposite. If fear enters saying, "I cannot afford this," you immediately substitute, "My income is constantly increasing." If doubt whispers, "This never works for me," you replace it with, "Everything works together for my good." This is not denial of reality. This is the creation of a new reality. You are impressing your subconscious mind with the thoughts that correspond to what you wish to experience. You are planting new seeds in the garden of your deeper mind. Think of your conscious mind as a gardener. The gardener doesn't fight with weeds by yelling at them or feeling guilty about their existence. The gardener simply pulls them out and plants flowers in their place. The soil doesn't care whether it grows weeds or roses. It will grow whatever you plant there. Your subconscious mind is that soil, neutral and infinitely fertile, ready to give form to whatever seeds your conscious mind plants. I have seen remarkable transformations when people truly grasp this principle. A woman came to me convinced she would never recover from a chronic illness. Her doctors had given her no hope. But she learned to guard her mind. Every time the thought of her illness arose, She gently replaced it with an image of perfect health. She felt herself whole, vibrant, radiating wellness. Within months, her condition reversed completely. The doctors called it spontaneous remission, but there was nothing spontaneous about it. It was the law in action. A businessman on the verge of bankruptcy began to affirm abundance instead of dwelling on debt. He stopped rehearsing failure and started imagining success. His circumstances shifted in ways that seemed miraculous to outside observers. New opportunities appeared. Old debts were forgiven. Resources flowed from unexpected sources. He hadn't changed the outer world directly, he had changed his inner world, and the outer world reflected that change. This is why affirmations sometimes fail. People repeat words while their feelings contradict those words. They say, "I am wealthy," while feeling poor. They say, "I am confident," while trembling with doubt. The words are positive, but the emotional state is negative. And it's the emotional state that impresses the subconscious mind. Your subconscious doesn't respond to words alone. It responds to feeling. It responds to conviction. It responds to the mental atmosphere you create when you make your affirmation. Think of it like this. You wouldn't plant seeds in frozen ground and expect them to grow. The soil must be prepared. The conditions must be right. Similarly, you must prepare your emotional soil before planting the seeds of your desires. When you affirm something, feel it as already accomplished. Don't beg, don't plead, don't desperately repeat empty phrases. Instead, assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Live in that state mentally. Dwell in it. Make it your mental home. I once knew a woman who wanted to heal a relationship with her estranged daughter. For years they hadn't spoken. The pain was deep on both sides. This woman could have spent her energy blaming, resenting, justifying. Instead, she turned within. Every night before sleep, she imagined a scene that implied reconciliation. She saw herself embracing her daughter. She felt the warmth of that embrace. She heard her daughter's laughter. She didn't imagine the difficult conversations or the process of healing. She went straight to the end. She lived in the feeling of reunion. She did this consistently, with feeling, with conviction. She impressed her subconscious mind with the image of reconciliation, not conflict. Within weeks, something shifted. Her daughter reached out. A simple message at first. Then a phone call. Then a meeting. The relationship began to heal. Not through force, not through manipulation, but through the silent, powerful work of the subconscious mind responding to a new impression. You see, when you change your inner conversations, when you change the images you hold in consciousness, you change the conditions that must appear in your world. This is the great secret that has been hidden in plain sight throughout the ages. Your subconscious mind cannot tell the difference between a vividly imagined experience and an actual experience. When you persist in imagining from the end, when you feel the reality of your wish fulfilled, your subconscious accepts this as fact and moves heaven and earth to make it so in your outer world. I once knew a woman who had been estranged from her daughter for 7 years. 7 long years of silence, of pain, of separation. She came to me, her eyes filled with tears, asking if there was any hope. I told her what I'm telling you now. There is always hope when you understand the law. I instructed her to create a simple scene in her mind. Every night before sleep, she was to imagine her daughter calling her on the phone. She was to hear her daughter's voice saying, "Mom, I love you. I've missed you." She was to feel the emotion of that moment, the joy, the relief, the love flooding through her heart. She did this faithfully, night after night. At first, it felt forced, almost painful. Her outer mind protested, reminding her of all the reasons it was impossible, but she persisted. She kept returning to that scene, feeling it real, making it natural in her imagination. 3 months passed. Then one evening, her phone rang. It was her daughter. The first words out of her daughter's mouth were almost identical to what she had been imagining. "Mom, I've been thinking about you. I miss you. I love you." Coincidence? No. This is law. This is how the subconscious mind operates. When you impress it with a clear, emotionally charged image, it must externalize that image in your world of experience. And so I say to you now with absolute conviction, stop waiting for permission, stop waiting for circumstances to be perfect. Stop waiting for someone outside of you to validate your desire or tell you that you're worthy of receiving it. You don't need permission. You need decision. The universe doesn't respond to your wishes. It doesn't respond to your hopes. It doesn't even respond to your desperation or your pleading. The universe responds to your assumptions. It responds to your inner convictions. It responds to the feeling of already being the person who has what you desire. This is why I have always taught that you must live from the end, not toward the end from the end. There is a tremendous difference between these two approaches, and most people never grasp this distinction. They spend their entire lives working toward their goal, striving, pushing, forcing, trying to make it happen through sheer effort and willpower. But when you live from the end, you assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled now. You don't wait for evidence. You don't wait for proof. You claim the state now, and you allow the outer world to rearrange itself to match your inner conviction. I knew a woman who desired marriage. For years, she had been hoping, wishing, praying for the right partner to appear. She attended events, joined groups, asked friends to introduce her to potential matches, and still, nothing manifested. When she came to me, I asked her a simple question: "How do you feel about yourself?" She hesitated, then admitted, "I feel incomplete. I feel like something is missing." "There," I said, "is your problem. You are trying to attract marriage from a consciousness of lack. You are affirming with every thought and feeling that you are incomplete without a partner. And so the universe must continue to show you evidence of that incompleteness." I instructed her to begin a new practice. Every night before sleep, she was to feel herself as a happily married woman, not hoping to be married but actually feeling the reality of it now.